at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. And don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to the live broadcast of Time for Hemp all around the world at timeforhemp.com, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Tumblr, iTunes, and everywhere on the internet where people like to get together and share with their friends their best buds while taking time for hemp. It is Mondays. On Mondays we do Healthy Mondays with a focus on how wonderful this plant can be for the utilization of medical aspects, and it's just fascinating how every time I turn on the news or pick up a newspaper or get online, I keep finding more and more things that medical marijuana can be utilized for. Now we're hearing about Alzheimer's and, of course, many different aspects of cancer, and we know how healthy it is for just our circulation and how it helps. It's amazing. You know, you can rub it on you, you can eat it, and you can consume it as a medication inside or outside, and you seem to always benefit from taking time for hemp. My joint host, Mary Lynn and Al, are always on every Monday promoting the hard work there they do at Patients at a Time and putting on to the format of the program their board members and their illustrious group of people that are from all around the world that focus on medical marijuana, so that you out there have expert material to share with the people around you when you try to let the whole world know how important it is to end prohibition. With that said, I'm going to hush my little mouth and let Marilyn and Al present to you our amazing joint guest today. And don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world take time for hemp. Marilyn and Al, I pass this to you. Your hit.
Thank you very much, Casper. And hello, everybody from Patients Out of Time. We're always happy to be here on Healthy Mondays with Casper Leitch. Today's guest, we've got Zack Kline. He'll be talking to us from Tel Aviv, Israel. I first met Zack, several years ago when we were both up in Toronto at Marco Renda, who was the editor of Treating Yourself magazine. He had his first expo there, and Zack was up and was showing his film, Prescribed Grass. I thought it was absolutely excellent film. Anyway, so we're very, very happy to have him, and what Al and I are going to try to do up until our 8th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics that will be in Portland, Maine, May 8th. Portland, Oregon. Sorry about that, folks. Other side of the coast. Portland, Oregon on May 8th through 10th. And we're going to try to get a lot of our speakers on the Mondays prior to this conference. And Zack's going to be at the conference in Portland. So without further ado, we'll start with Zack. And Zack, if you could just let people know a little bit about your background and what first got you going to start making Prescribed Grass, that wonderful film.
Hi everyone from Tel Aviv. It's 8 p.m. in the evening here, and actually how I started, my background is actually filmmaking. I finished film school at Tel Aviv University 20 years ago. I was making documentaries and drama films in Israel. And when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, her physician suggested using hashish, cannabis, for a side effect of the chemotherapy. It was the year 2000, and in Israel there was no knowledge or anything There was no cannabis for medicinal use. It was something like out of the blue. And luckily enough, I encountered Professor Rafael Meshulam. At the same year, 2000, he won the Israeli prize for his research, for his long-time research, I must say. He started in 1964 discovering, synthesizing the active molecule in cannabis, the THC. And since then he was working on the cannabinoid research, also later on discovering the anandamide, the endogenous cannabinoid of the body. But let me go back to the year 2000 when I first met him in a lecture. I went to listen to his lecture. He was talking about all this wonderful research about endocannabinoids and about the new system that he discovered in the body. The new discovery, the system is old in the body. And as he explained it, as a protective system of the body. I was really amazed from what he was talking about. I went to him after the lecture asking the question my mom asked me. Will it hurt my brain? Will it ruin my brain? That's what my mom asked me when she was suggested by a physician to use cannabis. She asked me that. I went to the professor and asked him after his lecture, will it do some damage to my mom's brain if she uses cannabis? And he looked at me and said, well, you probably didn't listen to my lecture, because he explained in the lecture one of the research that was done by him and by Professor Esti Shohami from Hebrew University in Jerusalem, that actually cannabinoids protect the brain from brain damage and does not do any harm to the brain. So at that point I understood that no damage can be, or no harm can be done by using cannabis. And my mom started using it. I helped her to get it in not officially, because there was no official way to get it. And I saw the wonderful change she went through when using cannabis. She didn't suffer from the side effect of chemotherapy. She stopped using all other painkillers and sleeping pills that she was using, and they were causing her depression in the mornings. And she was just using a little bit of cannabis. She was smoking a little bit, and then she could go to sleep easily, wake up happy in the morning. And I thought to myself, whoa, that's something that should be more the knowledge about cannabis, the knowledge, the lecture I heard from Professor Meshulam about all the research that is and was being done. I thought to myself, as a filmmaker, I must do something with it, and it took me several years to start working on this documentary. I started in 2007. Again, in a conference, I went to the IACM conference in Germany, captured all the lectures that was there about research on cannabis and cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. Went back to Israel, kept on interviewing the scientists who were on the project. It was Professor Rafael Meshulam and the late Esther Friede that was working about the endocannabinoid system in the newborn mice, and what's the importance of cannabis for eating and for appetite, not only appetite, also the ability to eat. And the research of Professor Shohami that was working on brain damage, and Professor Itai Bab that was working on bone and bone structure and the endocannabinoid system in the bone. Also, I met the wonderful, I must say, Professor Ruth Galili. She's actually expert on inflammatory disease, and she was working on cannabinoids in inflammatory disease. She was working especially on the CBD molecule, and her research is also, I must use the phrase, mind-blowing. Because she's saying, okay, this is CBD, cannabidiol is a very good medicine for almost any or all inflammatory disease that it's known to men. that includes diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis, and damage that is done to the heart after heart attack or liver inflammation. Then I went on to continue with my documentary. The documentary was aired in Israel in 2009. I also, the 2 years before that, I was working with the first dispensary in Israel, working with patients, and some of them agreed to be on the documentary and to tell their story. And some of the physicians in Israel agreed to be interviewed on the movie. Finally, we had this documentary done, and as I said, it was aired in 2009, and it made a big change in Israel, according to the numbers, according to the what happened afterwards. Before that, basically nobody was really speaking about using cannabis for medicinal reasons. And then after the documentary was aired in primetime TV, people looked at it and realized there's something here that needs to be done, and change needs to be done here regarding the use of cannabis for medicinal use. Since then, many things have changed. There was a large public demand from doctors, from the Ministry of Health, to issue more licenses. Before the movie, there were maybe less than 400 licenses. After the movie, it went up by thousands. Today in Israel, there are around 15,000 licenses for using medical cannabis. The system in Israel works as when a physician decides, a specialist decides that cannabis would be appropriate for use, and that only after all other treatment were not good, all other medications were not working, only then a patient can get a recommendation from his physician for using medical cannabis. Then it needs to be approved by the Ministry of Health. Sometimes it takes long time, but at least something is happening, and patients can get medical cannabis. It's not that everyone can get it yet, but people can get it. I can continue to. Okay.
I'd just like to ask a question about that. What you're talking about there about patients' availability. 15,000 sounds like a big number, but not for your country. And I wonder about this restriction where cannabis has to be used last instead of first. Who made that kind of decision? Was that made by medical professionals, or was that made by politicians?
It was the decision was made by the Ministry of Health, and I guess it's more it's between politics and medicine, because it's more politics, I guess. These days there is a big discussion in Israel on the use of medical cannabis, and new law proposals are made by members of the parliament to the government, and now the Ministry of Health is issuing a new statement about it, but not yet agreed on anything. My guess that the situation, that the availability of cannabis only after every other treatment was failed, is because that cannabis is still not registered medicine. Is rather is registered as a dangerous drug, an illicit drug, a dangerous drug, and by definition, it has no medical properties, which is kind of strange when you read all the research.
Well, it's the same situation we have here in the United States, though, Zack. We have what you and I and science and our population obviously realizes is a valid and valuable medicine, but and that to me is a nursing and medical agenda. Yet your governments and mine apparently decide that they are medical experts when they get a law degree or they get made a judge or something, and feel free to make medical decisions even though they don't know what they're talking about. I find it curious that both of our countries have that same stupendous ignorance.
I do too. And I've often said that Obama's kids can go to the computer and do a Google search on medical marijuana, do a Google search on industrial hemp, and do a Google search on the word prohibition, and learn in 15 minutes more than what Obama claims to know publicly. And so for any politician to stand up in front of me and continue to spew the rhetoric that marijuana is bad, medical marijuana does not exist, and all those properties are bull, makes me want to throw up in my mouth and let that person know they're not getting my vote because they're not smart enough to do a Google search. They certainly aren't smart enough to be the leader of my district, my state, or my country. We got to take a commercial break here and pay our bills because we are addicted to money. We are in a material world, and it's the only way that the material world goes round and round here at Time for Hemp.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
All herbalists, all ganja man, put down Babylon, cause them not free of the herb. It's so absurd. Carry me.
Hold me reason with me, brethren. We smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through. When me reason with me, brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through.
All of it take a talk, and me say all of it take a talk. It was found on King Solomon's grave, that's no joke. Not no coke, devil trick, only natural thing. Me smoke me ball, them 110 years feel little. Wicked man got plant on earth, free and simple, and act like they don't know. And it's time make that go. Tell me when move Babylon free up the herb. Farmer man, happy rise up, this is so absurd. All the way.
Listen with me, brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through. When me reason with me, brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through.
The U.S. Declaration of Independence paper was made out of the seed that they make praising us. Come number one, kind stick and the black domina. Northern lights and the one silver pearl, fire blaze early, but can't forget early girl. The highest grade you know, Zion I spirit for sure. Sitting righteously on this earth. It's the meditation in on the book, that's what it's worth. All herbalists, all ganja man.
When me reason with me, brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through. When me reason with me, brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. And that's a natural thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and march right through. Babylon, them one fake come and boys right through. When me reason with me brethren, we smoke the herb, break it up and twist it up again. That's another thing that we do. But the Babylon, them one fake come and boys right through. Break it up and twist it up again. Twist it up again. Break it up and twist it up again. Twist it up again. Break it up and twist it up again. Twist it up again. Break it up and twist it up again.
It's so absurd.
It is absurd that these laws are in place. People holla. We knew about medical marijuana long before they outlawed it, long before Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin began importing it and making products out of it and creating paper out of it, long before Henry Ford developed an entire auto body made out of industrial hemp, long before we were making flags out of hemp, long before we were making Levi jeans out of hemp. Way back in the Oriental religions, if you seek back into Buddhism, and if you seek into the oldest history found on the human race, all discovered in tombs and in various parts of the world, are cannabis seeds alongside kings in their tombs and alongside places where they've tried to store knowledge so that when other civilizations would later unearth their information, they would come across not only these books and this art, but these seeds that grow hemp, these seeds that grow medical marijuana. Hello, people. How dare a human being stand up and say, Mother Nature got it wrong, like, we got to outlaw this. This is bad. Look, follow the money. Got it? Follow the money, and you'll figure out the truth. Anyway, I could go on forever, but, if I wanted to do that, then I won't schedule a wonderful joint host like Lynn Mathre and Al Byrne, and I won't certainly have them bring on such an amazing joint guest as we have today with Zack. So let me hush my mouth, and let's get back to sharing knowledge instead of my own personal rants here at Time for Hemp.
Zack, I'm like everybody else. How's your mother doing?
Well, my mom is okay. She's fine. She's feeling real good. She finished the treatment long time ago. She still uses cannabis from time to time when she has minor aches for some, I guess, age reasons. Actually, she also did her PhD just after finishing with chemotherapy. I don't know, but I suspect that might also be something to do with the use of cannabis. I think it opens up the mind a little bit.
Yeah, that's curious, isn't it? When her main concern before trying it was to make sure it wouldn't hurt her mind, and then she can go on and get her PhD. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue with that. Movie, your documentary obviously spawned more interest, and let us know how that led to your work with the nursing home.
Right, and make sure you tell everybody how they can view this movie, this documentary, Prescription Grass.
Prescribed grass.
Prescribed Grass, I'm sorry.
Prescribed Grass. The movie can be seen on my website. It's zackline.com. You can also find it on YouTube. Just search for Prescribed Grass. Or, as I mentioned on my website, I'm sure we can share the link online on the webpage of Time for Hemp. Now, just after the movie was screened, I got a phone call. Actually, I was driving my car, I got a phone call, and the lady introduced herself as a head nurse of a nursing home. And she told me she just got a license for one of her patients, but she doesn't know what to do with it. And she called me because I made this documentary, and I should come there and tell her what to do with the cannabis and how to use it for her patients. I happily went there. I had some experience from working in the dispensary with patients. And I met her in the nursing home. It was my first visit to a nursing home. It's not such a nice place to visit. Actually, the people there suffer so much. There's not much that modern medicine can do for them, even though they get so much medications and treatments. But most of them are just suffering. A lot of shouting can be heard there. People with severe spasticity, people that don't eat and are fed with feeding tubes, and cases of severe Parkinson's and dementia, Alzheimer, and many other diseases like people after stroke. The first patient I met, the one who got the license, was with severe dementia, and she was sitting on the wheelchair, basically just shouting. And the nurse told me that this is the situation for her for a few months now. Nothing they gave her couldn't stop her shouting, her suffering. At that time, I didn't have much, not very much. The only thing I had was flowers, cannabis flowers, some rolling papers, and because that's the way we used it with people, just smoke a joint, smoke a few puffs, and you'll feel better. But this lady on the wheelchair, she was not communicating, and she could not hold a joint in her hand or respond to anything. So I actually used, I just took a puff from the joint and blow it very close to her mouth so she can get the smoke. Everything was with actually agreed by the nurse. I asked her, can I do that? And she said, do whatever you can, whatever you think is right. So that's what I did. And less than 2 minutes, 1 minute later, after the inhaling of the smoke by the patient, she stopped shouting, and she was actually looking at me. And the nurse almost fainted. She said, this never happened. I didn't see her like that before. And I gave her another puff, and then actually she started kind of communication with me. She was looking at me when I called her name, and then 10 minutes later she was smiling. And then the nurse said, okay, you are not going back to Tel Aviv, you are staying with us. We have another 36 patients here in the nursing home in this place, and you are staying with us because we don't know to do what you just did. And actually for the next coming weeks, I was going there every day. It's 45 minutes drive from where I live. It's situated in a kibbutz south to Tel Aviv. And with the head doctor, the physician, the geriatric specialist, and the head nurse, we started working on getting licenses for the other patients there. And then in the next, for 2 years, we actually developed kind of a protocol for treatment for the patients. Of course, it was not anymore someone puffing smoke in the face of the patient, but we used different kind of, we built a smoke machine, like a mechanical bung, and we also used the vaporizer and, of course, cannabis for swallowing. Cannabis that was mixed in the food, in the porridge of the patients, each one with different quantities, and then the place was completely different. It was quiet. It was really nice coming there. Nobody was eating anymore with a feeding tube. People that were almost were forced to eat with a kind of syringe in their mouth because they couldn't open the mouth from spasticity. Suddenly opened the mouth. The muscles were relaxed. People if you never seen this before, people that are spastic and their arms are wrapped around themselves, were open up like flowers, and there were no complaints about pain. There were no problems of sleeping, no problems of eating, even though we are talking about severely ill patients. the people that are hospitalized there usually don't live as long, and they stay there just for a few months or less. People that used cannabis there actually lived longer and happier and without pain and without much suffering. We have a few Holocaust survivors that are hospitalized there, and one of them, just after using cannabis for 3 months, after 3 months, he suddenly realized that he can sleep very good without having nightmares. And he said, I'm no longer a Holocaust survivor. It's something with the past. I'm not a Holocaust boy anymore. That's his wording. I'm not living it anymore. Other patients also remarked about the post-traumatic stress they had. This was gone. They could just live their life there at the place. The team that works there was also very, at the beginning they were very suspective about the using of cannabis for the patient. And after they saw the results, that not only the patient don't suffer, they eat better, and their work is becoming much easier. Just to think about how can you wash a person who is totally spastic. His arms are wrapped around him, you cannot move him. Suddenly they can move. Suddenly they can easily move the patient from the bed to the chair, or to take him to wash him. And another thing that the nurse told me after a few months, he told, we stopped using enema treatments. The digestive system is working. That compared to pain medication that cause constipation. So we all realize that cannabis has not only is treating the situation like pain or spastic problems or anything else, and it's instead of having side effects, negative side effects, it has some positive effects, just that. Another circle of positive effects is surrounding the use of cannabis, and that's true for everyone else that I encountered that is using cannabis. After these 2 years, I decided to go back to university and start my own research, which is being done these days. I started with
interrupt just a second here, Zack.
Yes,
I think it is time for another commercial break, but we'll come back to your research then.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, I want to remind people that you can find us on iTunes, Tumblr, and SoundCloud, and it makes it easy for you to share us with your friends and let the whole world know how important it is to take time for him.
Well, now, chocolate cake makes my poor stomach ache, and all those pills are too much for me to take. I don't like cocaine 'cause it makes me all uptight, but coffee and reefer makes me feel alright. Crystal meth will make you high.
American farmers are losing their farms at a frightening rate. For generations, this land and the occupations that it provided were handed down from father to son. And over the years, laws passed by legislators have eroded this heritage. The government and our nation's banking system are slowly becoming this country's sole farm owners. So in order to turn the tide, the American farmer needs a successful cash crop. Now, hemp is a plant that's proven to be versatile in creating over 50,000 products, from cloth and paper to fuel and medicine. And when prohibition was leveled against liquor, it was still legal to grow corn and grapes for other purposes. Now, this should be true of hemp. Return our roots to America and help re-legalize hemp.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
I inhaled frequently. That was the point. So what was that cameraman on?
He was inhaling, apparently.
Howard, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's an accepted part of the culture now, and I think for one of the reasons why Barack Obama is so popular, especially among younger people, is that he seems so real. He seems to acknowledge the reality of things. It's kind of almost like a dog whistle kind of thing. Older people can't hear it. Younger people hear it. And that's one of the things that they hear. He seems to be willing to be honest, straight from the shoulder.
Is that like Ralph Nader always being for industrial hemp? Okay, that must be a dog whistle because I don't hear it.
There's nothing to say once you've said, yes, I inhaled. Then what? Nothing. The thing people can't stand is the lie.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
Stay alert with consciousness. That's what we're talking about. You know, there's been times when I've injured myself in the past, twisted my ankle or burnt myself on my muffler there when I'm riding my motorcycle. Bad enough where I had to take some kind of pain medication, We all do that. And it says right there on the side of the bottle, please do not use heavy equipment or drive while using this medication. And I'm telling you straight up, if you sit down and you enjoy yourself a real big, gnarly, fat, medicated cigarette, do not get on a bus and drive me and my friends across town. Do not get into a cockpit of an airplane and fly my loved ones across the country. Do not do something silly. Be responsible. Please make sure of how it's going to affect you before you start doing things like that. And, we don't want to put people's lives in jeopardy because we're exercising our freedoms or utilizing our medications. So, yes, it is of the earth. It's silly to have it outlawed. And please be responsible when you use it. Here at Time for Hemp, I pass the program back over to my joint host, Mary Lynn Mathre and Al Byrne. Mary Lynn and Al, I'm going to tell you something straight up. I'm getting cranky and senile. I'm 58 years old. I walk into a room and can't remember why I walked into that room a lot, okay? So I figure I'm going to be in a nursing home soon. So do me a favor, any nursing home that they shove me into, make sure it's got a cannabis smoking room for me to utilize. Would you please?
I'll do what I can, Casper. Actually, there's a plan for that in Jamaica. I'll clue you in on it.
Thank you.
Listen, folks, I'd like you all to know that Patients at a Time, with Casper's help, has expanded its reach to you by an hour. And we not only do this show with Casper on Healthy Mondays, but on Sunday, same time, same place, 1 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, Patients at a Time has a second 1-hour program that Mary Lynn and I host without Casper, although he helps us certainly with the broadcast. But this show is a challenge show, in effect, to the naysayers of medical cannabis. People that think that medical cannabis is a ruse or a fraud. They think that it's nothing more than an excuse for legalization. Those people. The challenge is to any of them. The White House has certainly invited the drug people there, or NIDA, or the DEA, or any individual or group or whoever to say their piece on our radio show. Provide their logic and provide their research, and we will give them whatever opportunity they need to make their point about how bad cannabis is. The caveat for these people is when they're done, then they have to deal with Mary Lynn and I. We've asked that challenge now for 2 weekends in a row, and the drug czar hasn't called, but he's certainly welcome to. Let's return now to Mr. Zack Kline in Israel. And Zack, we'd like you to finish up your work there you're saying it's a nursing home. Boy, it sure sounds more like a hospice to me. But yeah, please finish up with the work you've done and what you're working on now, and what we're going to hear you talk about in May at our next conference.
Okay, I just want to say to Casper, when you get old and you don't find a nice nursing home, you are cordially invited to Israel. I know at least one nursing home that has a cannabis smoking room. And also a nice porch that you can sit and use your cannabis. And
very much, Zack.
Actually, it is a kind of combined nursing home and hospice kind of place. And when I saw the results we get there, and I enrolled to university to do my own research. Actually, it's a school for the environment in Tel Aviv University, and my research has got to do something with environment, and I noticed that patients there are using much less medication, and I suggested the subject because of the contamination of medicine in water, of pharmaceuticals that are found in drinking water. Maybe lowering the use of pharmaceuticals will help the environment as well. This is one part of the research. The other part is going to start really soon. We just got approval from the ethics committee of the hospital, and this research is being done on people that have swallowing problems, people that cannot swallow from different reasons, either a head injury or any other kind of brain damage that was done by operation or accident or illness. When we looked at the patient at the nursing home, we saw that they are eating much better. And I also encountered one story about a patient that is actually hospitalized at home, and his wife is taking care of him. And it took her 1.5 hours to feed him every time. And after she started using cannabis for him, she told me that the time went down to 15 to 20 minutes. So this is also very important for the team that is taking care of the patients. After this information came to me, I consulted my tutors, my professors at the university, and they suggested we also go for research on people with swallowing problems, dysphagia. And we're going also to do a small group of old people that lost their appetite and they are not eating. And this is a problem because they are not getting what they need, and they are just getting. It can cause a lot of problems, of course. There was no much research done on these two subjects. Actually, on swallowing problem, I think no research was done. On appetite, there was research. Research was done on mostly cancer or HIV patients, but I couldn't find research that was done exactly on appetite for the elderly. And this is the two groups we are going to examine in the upcoming research. Actually, next week we have also already our first meeting. Took me almost, I think, 8 months to get the approval of the ethics committee in the hospital. I had to go back and forth with them to convince all the 10 people that are sitting there that this is something that can be done, that cannabis is a medicine, and it's not just something else, and it's not a dangerous drug, and they all speak about schizophrenia or psychotic side effect of cannabis, which I think actually we never encountered any psychotic incidents when using cannabis as medicine, when using it carefully. And when I look at the research that was done about it, it's not so convincing.
Okay. We're going to have to wrap it up here pretty quick. How about telling the folks again how to get a look at your documentary?
The documentary Prescribed Grass can be seen on my website, which is KlineZack.com. Kline is Klein, Zack ZACK, and then .com. So it's KlineZack.com.
Okay, and for the rest of thank you for being with us in Casper today. We very much appreciate it. Our best to your country. I hope yours and mine can let the doctors and nurses take the lead with this medical cannabis issue instead of the cops and the lawyers. And for those that want to learn more about medical cannabis, Mary Lynn and I will be back on Time for Hemp at 1 p.m. Eastern Time next Sunday. And our guest will be Debbie Wilson. Debbie, working as a probation officer in the state of Oregon, received serious injuries to her head. So we'll be talking about her recovery from TBI and PTS. If you want to visit us, please visit us at medicalcannabis.com. And if you want to ask us some questions, send your emails to patients@medicalcannabis.com. Take care.
And I want to remind people that, yes, we are a growing team here. We are a growing network. We are a growing broadcasting network. And with that said, we have a lot of great programs like by Judge James Gray, Mary Lynn, and Al, of course, are talking about their program earlier. Our network that lets the whole world know how important it is to take time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, time for hemp! Yeah!
The nightclub, the speedboat, the mob, men and women drinking together, the booze cruise, the spread of jazz, the cocktail. What do they all have in common? They're the results, direct and indirect, of Prohibition, the nearly 14-year period from 1920 to 1933 when the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquor was illegal in this country. Why do you love the story so much?
It's the answer to that question. How the hell did that happen?
Daniel Okrent is author of Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition.
I mean, it's just so improbable. How did this freedom-loving country put into the organic law, into the Constitution, this unbelievable stricture that said that you can't have a glass of beer? It's really hard to believe.
Part of the reason was simply that Americans like to drink a lot.
This country was very, very drunk. In 1830, the average American over 15 years of age drank 7.3 gallons of pure alcohol a year. That's the equivalent of 90/5 of 80-proof liquor, 1.8 bottles per week for every drinker in the country.
Alcoholism is a serious social problem. It was a social problem in the 19th century, which prompted Prohibition. It is today.
Producers Ken Burns and Lynn Novick collaborated on documentaries about jazz and baseball. In their newest film, airing tonight on PBS, they take on Prohibition.
It was clear that millions of Americans had now come to support Prohibition for all sorts of reasons.
Prohibition was billed, they point out, as the one-size-fits-all cure for the ills of American society.
Prohibition was really sold as not just that it would solve the problem of alcoholism, it would solve poverty, it would solve child labor, it would solve prostitution, it would solve crime, it would get rid of slums.
With so many problems to address, it's not surprising that the Dry Coalition was dizzyingly diverse. Suffragettes who originally wanted the vote so they could outlaw demon liquor. Small-town Protestants threatened by the wave of Catholic immigrants and their city saloons. The Ku Klux Klan who exploited the pernicious stereotype of the dangerous black man with a bottle. Even Broadway producers who wanted patrons out of bars and in their theaters. This is sort of the epitome of strange bedfellows.
Yeah, if you can imagine a very large bed that accommodates, some guy wearing a KKK uniform, somebody from the Industrial Workers of the World, Jane Addams and J.J. Schubert of the theater chain, that's a very strange set of bedfellows.
And is it true that the KKK supported women's suffrage?
KKK supported women's suffrage, and the KKK supported it because they knew that women would support prohibition.
Jeez,
that's the story of prohibition. It's all G's, who knew? Yeah.
But who could possibly wrangle this crazy quilt coalition?
I think it's clear that the ASL was the most powerful lobbying group. They actually made a constitutional amendment happen.
The ASL, or Anti-Saloon League. What made them so effective?
Look, they said to you, I don't care what you think about whether babies ought to be slaughtered or whether we should start wars. We don't care about any of those things at all. You're with us on our one issue.
It's one issue. So they weren't party affiliated?
They were not party affiliated, and they, in fact, had very strong influence in both parties by design. The organization that's most like them today is the NRA. One issue. That's all we care about.
And the League's seat of power? Not New York, not Washington, but Westerville, Ohio.
So in here was the headquarters of the Anti-Saloon League.
Nina Thomas is an archivist at the town's Anti-Saloon League Museum.
As you see right here, there's a poster that says the saloon or the boys and the girls. Just that emotion of, would you rather have a saloon or would you rather have your children?
The League employed 200 people in a state-of-the-art printing operation that generated 40 tons of propaganda a month. The message was clear.
Shall the mothers and children be sacrificed to the financial greed of the liquor trade? It's up to you to decide.
Even if the facts sometimes weren't.
Do you know one insane person in every 4 owes his insanity to drink?
Pivotal to Prohibition's passage, anti-German sentiment fomented by World War I. Schlitz, Pabst, Anheuser-Busch. All of them German.
They linked the Germans to the brewers. So people had that kind of in the back of their head that this is un-American.
Though the brewers and distillers had vast financial resources, they were inept campaigners. Here's an ad extolling the virtues of beer.
The public relations strategy of the Wets, some of the ads, a baby with a beer stein.
Yeah, the brewers wanted to separate themselves from the distillers. They maintained that gin and whiskey, that was horrible, poisonous stuff, whereas our beer was healthy. They actually called it liquid bread.
The Dries had the Wets over a barrel, and the 18th Amendment went into effect at midnight on January 17th, 1920.
After Prohibition became law, how soon was it that it became clear that it wasn't going to work?
Well, one could say it didn't work by around 2 a.m. on January 17th. I think that the general feeling was in the first year that it could work and that it was working. But as people found ways to exploit loopholes, as criminality expanded, as the saloons were able to turn themselves into speakeasies and all you need to do was bribe a local cop or judge, these things began to snowball as early as 1921, 1922.
Legitimate enterprises were corrupted and respect for the law corroded. Drugstores allowed to dispense medicinal alcohol became virtual liquor stores. The Walgreens chain went from 20 stores to 525. But the ultimate buzzkill for Prohibition?
Really is the Depression, this incredible crisis that I think, made America kind of take another look and say, wait, what are our priorities? Is this really that important? We're spending all this money to enforce a law that nobody wants?
In the first few years, drinking did decline 70% from pre-Prohibition levels. But the Dries were up against something even more powerful than money.
What you can't successfully legislate against is human appetite. And if people want something, they're going to find a way to get it.
On December 5th, 1933, the 21st Amendment passed, ending Prohibition.
And Prohibition is repealed.
The only time in history an amendment has been repealed. The noble experiment was over.
It was a failure by any measurement, but positive in its failure. We learned from our failures. We learned, let's not try this again.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.